Yo guys, what's up? We're here for chapter 3 of The Only Thing to Fear by Caroline Tung Richmond. And I just want to thank you all for listening and watching. I suppose you could watch. This was more designed for, yeah, sure, let's have this in the background while I do whatever. Okay, so my book shout out this time is to a series called The Cat Warriors. It's a really awesome series that I'm actually reading I'm rereading. I've read it before, but I'm rereading it in the process. So thank you to that extra subscriber and those viewers. Here's my next video. So without further ado, if I can find the page, there it is. We shall begin. Chapter 3, The Only Thing to Fear. A few mornings later, Zara awoke shivering. A layer of sweat soaked the collar of her nightshirt, pooling into the hollow of her neck. She rubbed her eyes, but the dream still clung to her mind. The beating, the blood, Mr. Carey crying for his lost sons. Guilt gnawed at Zara's chest. She knew deep down that her uncle was right, that there was nothing they could have done unless they wanted to get beaten themselves. But what happened at the square had only reminded her that, yet again, she was powerless. She was merely another clean ball, unable to stand up against the Nazi regime. If only Uncle Red had let her join the alliance. I wonder why he didn't. Then she could at least do something to help, even if she had to sift through the colonel's trash. That would be more than what she was doing now. But her uncle wouldn't even give her that chance. A muffled cry came from the hallway. Zara's head snapped towards the door. Not again. Scrambling from her cover, she bolted down the narrow hallway until she burst into her uncle's bedroom. His feet tripped over the rough floorboards and she nearly knocked him into his mammoth of a dresser, but she righted herself and knelt beside his bed. Uncle Red, she clutched onto his shoulder while he thrashed in the sheets. No, he groaned asleep. No, please, Annie, run. Uncle Red! His eyes broke open, his chest heaved. What happened? You were having that dream again. About Mom? Uncle Red sat up straight and threw his robe over his shoulders. His gaze slid away from hers. I'm sorry if I woke you. Don't apologize, Zara said softly. Her mother had been gone for years now, but her uncle still dreamed about that terrible night when she was killed. He and Zara's mom had been very close. Protective older brother and the little sister who followed him everywhere, even into the alliance. Are you okay? He raised out the question. What time is it? 6:30. Uncle Red swore. He typically woke at 5 each morning to get started on the crops. But the Nazis assigned quotas that every farmer had to meet, and Zara and her uncle were always struggling to reach theirs. Traveling to his dresser, he turned on his decade-old television for the morning news update. You should get going. I don't want you to be late. Zara didn't budge. This is the second nightmare you've had this month. I'm fine now. Go on and get dressed. You have to leave for school. For work, you mean. Zara muttered. Clean bar, like them, only attended school until age 8. After that, they were assigned to a farm or a factory or another form of menial labor. Zara had been given the job of a Hochman. I don't know how to pronounce that. A cleaning girl at the German military academy. A custodian, to put it plainly. Put in the comments if you know what that means or if you've heard that before. It was a plain job indeed. The dust, the mops, the constant stench of bleach. Most girls would be grateful for a career indoors, but Zara could barely stand it. She'd much rather stay on the farm with her uncle. But the Nazis had assigned her to this job because she was deemed too small, too weak for laboring as a farmhand. She was given a mop and broom instead, although the strict crop quota always required her to help out with the farm work anyway. Uncle Red threw open the moth-eaten curtains, sewn by his grandmother many years before. I ironed your uniform last night. It's hanging in your closet. Zara thanked him but didn't leave the room. Instead, she fidgeted with the fraying seams of her cotton shorts. Are you going on your mission tonight? He tensed. Why do you ask? Every couple of months, he and Miss Tally would sneak into Fort Goring to steal medical supplies for her midwifery practice. It was the only type of mission he would agree to now, ever since Mission Metzger had killed off most of the Greenfield Alliance. No more ambushes, no more recruiting, only supply runs. It hadn't always been this way, of course. Years ago, Uncle Red and Zara's mother had planned missions every week, from tainting the Nazis' water supply to recruiting new members across the Shinoda. But Zara had begged them to let her come too, but her mother would only smile, and her uncle would ruffle her hair, telling her to wait until she was older. But now she was older, wasn't she? Zara cleared her throat. I thought you and Miss Tally could use an extra look at, especially after the announcement today. No. Well, I canceled the supply run. It's too risky right now. Zara's jaw fell ajar. But what about Miss Tally? She told us last week that she was almost out of antibiotics. She can make do until her next run. That won't be until another month. Sneaking into Fort Goring was no easy task, but Miss Tally had learned from a patient of hers that one of the security rotations spent their shift playing poker and drinking beer instead of patrolling the fort. The one catch was that they only worked nights once or twice a month, which severely limited the supply runs. Uncle Red let out a battered sigh. Do you want me to jeopardize Miss Tally's life over this, or my own? Of course not. But there are families depending on that medicine. The Spotswood's daughter has been sick for weeks. Let me go with you. I can be another pair of eyes. Absolutely not. Uncle Red's face had turned to steel, wiped clean of his nightmares. He nodded at the door. Get ready for work. Zara marched back into her bedroom, her breast turning sharp. She threw on her work uniform, buttoning the yellow blouse and tucking the patched fabric into her knee-length pleated skirt. Can anyone in the comments tell me what the heck that stuff is? I know it's some kind of dress, or dress stuff, but I have no idea. Right. Why couldn't Uncle Red give her this one shot? She couldn't help the Alliance. She could help him help the Alliance. But he wouldn't budge. After buckling her loafers, the nicest shoes she owned, Zara burst out of the front door and onto the gravel driveway. She wished she could contact the Alliance, but Celia Farragut, the head of the resistance, deferred to local Alliance leaders when it came to recruitment. And unfortunately for her, Uncle Red was the leader of the Greenfield chapter. That didn't seem very fair to Zara. The Alliance needed all of the recruits they could get if they wanted to drive out the Nazis. Since the German takeover after the war, the rebels' numbers had dwindled steadily as the anomaly divisions spread from state to state, using their powers to root out the Alliance. These days, Farragut, is it Farragut? I don't know, and her team stayed hidden in a West Virginian war bunker that was built decades ago by the American government. From their hideout, they monitored local Alliance chapters and encouraged rebel activities, launching guerrilla attacks and stealing weapons. But that was hardly enough to overthrow an empire. The setbacks from the Alliance had faced hadn't deterred Zara's mother from joining them, and they wouldn't deter Zara either. The Nazis had taken far too much away from their family already. What else would the Germans take if she let them? Her home, her uncle, herself? If she didn't fight back, they would snatch away everything she loved. Zara glanced back at the house. Iron. Iron in her narrowed eyes. Iron in her narrowed eyes. Wait, hold up. Let me read that sentence again, just to make sure that, because that did not sound right. Zara glanced back at the house. Iron in her narrowed eyes. That's a weird sentence. Somehow, someway, she would convince her uncle to let her join the Alliance. 4 miles down the road, Zara entered the Greenfield town limit, where a slew of shops cropped up on a clean street. She passed the grocer, the post office, and the tiny movie theater that boasted the newest films of the Third Reich's production department. But her pace slowed once she reached the bakery. The smell of hot, buttery bread made her stomach groan. She realized she hadn't eaten a thing since last night's potato peel soup. Zara peeked through the storefront. her mouth watering at the sight of the golden loaves, still steaming. But the baker caught her staring. "Out! Out!" he yelled, waving her off with his floured hands. "Your kind isn't served here." Zara's appetite dried like a prune. She bolted down the sidewalk, wishing she had avoided the street altogether, with its Nazi-owned shops and snooty German patrons. Most cities in the territories were built this way nowadays, a rich burgess center filled with the descendants of Germany's post-war baby boom. Nearly a quarter of the population consisted of Germans who formed an upper crust of the society that staffed the military, owned stores, and oversaw the factories that fueled the Nazis' great economy. And below that crust, the rest of us grasped for crumbs, Zara thought. But what choice did they have? The Germans possessed an arsenal of missiles along with their troops of anomalies. So far, no other nation dared to fight against the German anomaly division. Even though the division itself had diminished in number, even though the division itself had diminished in numbers since the 1960s. In the years following the Axis victory, thousands of anomalies continued to perish as their bodies rejected the genetic altering that they'd received during the war. The Nazi scientists tried to cure their former test subjects, but they soon hit a wall. Some soldiers had simply adapted to the genetic altering, and others didn't. But the scientists did find a silver lining. These adapted soldiers often passed their anomaly gene onto their daughters and sons, who would then manifest new and different powers within the first 10 years of life. It wasn't long before these German children were scrutinized and studied, and the anomalies among them became the second generation of the division. But under the Nuremberg laws, which were now instituted in the territories as well, only Aryans and honorary Aryans were admitted to the division. If any of the anomaly soldiers conceived a superpowered child with an intersmish, the offspring would be killed or sent to a laboratory for live dissection, which is why non-German anomalies were so rare. Hurrying over the cobblestones, Zara took 3 side streets until she reached the gates of Heinrich Himmler Military Academy, an elite training school for future Nazi officers. The campus consisted of a cluster of red brick buildings surrounding a sprawling training field where the cadets ran laps and honed their shooting skills. Zara dashed up to the main building to find 2 other cleaning girls sweeping the sidewalk and a group of cadets loitering by the entrance. One of the boys showed off a handheld radio vision screen that could play music and local TV channels. Most likely he had bought it in New Berlin, the marble-paved capital of the territories, formerly known as Washington, D.C. Zara reached for the front door only to have someone jog up behind her and swing it open. "After you," said a voice in a clipped German accent. A shiver slid down her throat, down her back. Yeah, throat doesn't make sense. Back. The cadets rarely spoke to the cleaning girls unless they needed to report a clogged toilet or complain about the cafeteria food. Her eyes climbed upward inch by inch to find Bastian Eckhart standing next to her in his tall lithe frame, one hand propping the door open. Aside from his amber eyes, he could have stepped out of an Aryan race handbook, with his pale skin, sun-colored hair, and square jaw. The Academy's female cadets often giggled and grinned during Bastian's track meets, but Zara had never thought much about his looks. He was a Nazi after all, and the straight nose of his just made her think of his father. "Thank you, Herr Eckhart." Zara's gaze skittered away from his, landing on the pair of dog tags that lay gleaming on his press shirt. She had worked at the school long enough to know that the cadets didn't appreciate direct eye contact, not from an Unterschmidt like her. But strangely enough, the last few months, Zara had caught Bastian glancing her way whenever she mopped the halls or wiped the mustard spills off the lunch tables. He always looked away when she caught him staring, and that had puzzled him even more. But Bastian never said a word to her, until now. "Fraulein." Bastian nodded at the door. Sarah had no idea why he was being so polite, or why he was back at school for that matter. A couple of days before, Bastien had taken leave of absence due to a death in the family. Apparently his great-uncle had passed away. Maybe it was great-aunt. It was his great-aunt. Zara was about to head inside when Bastien leaned in closer, his dog tags clanking together. "May I speak to you for a moment?" She bit back a sigh. She was already running late and didn't want to get docked pay for fraternizing with the cadet. But she couldn't refuse a Nazi, least of all an Eckhart. "Can I assist you with something? I don't have my cart with me, but—" "There's no need to get your cart. I was wondering if we could speak in private." "And what do you have there, Bastien?" one of the cadets called out. "Flirting with help? How much does she cost?" Zara's face turned a shade of bright radish. She wasn't one of those girls, the sort who would trade her body for a handful of Reichsmarks. Is that what Bastien was hoping to discuss? "I didn't mean," Bastien said, then stopped suddenly. He looked like he wanted to say more, but then only added, "Interrupt. Good day, Fraulein." The cadets crowed louder, goading him to tell them how much Zara was charging him. Her face burning, Zara knew she should bow her head and wish Bastien a good day, but her lips wouldn't move. She bolted through the door instead, away from the cadets, away from their laughter, and away from Bastien Eckhart. Okay, so this was a shorter chapter. That was chapter 3. I'm on spring break, so you might see a couple of videos coming out pretty soon, because I do like to get a few since, the bigger part of the school year is, where I got more quizzes, more... Actually, no. This should be the last big stretch where not as many videos are coming out. So, thanks for watching or listening, whatever you guys do. I don't really know how you do it. What else? I am just about done with the school year, so this should be the last big stretch where you don't see, as many videos coming out. Not even every week. I'm trying to do every week, but now that soccer's starting up, weekends may be harder, so it may be that I get one done Friday, and I don't upload it till, Tuesday? So it'll also depend, when do I have time and everything. So yeah, so thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video.